And welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I was reading in the Register the other day. The Register, by the way, is an excellent website if you're into tech news and all that fun stuff. But they had a story. This is talking about the state of open source software, and this is important here for a minute, or in a minute. I'll explain why. But this is recent events have brought the plight of open source maintainers front and center, but the problems were brewing for many years. The theme cropped up repeatedly during 2025's State of Open Source conference, with speakers from tech giants and volunteer maintainers laying out the challenges. Much of the open source ecosystem relies on volunteers, putting in too many hours for too little support, and the cracks are growing. Okay, now, you'd be surprised how much open source software you end up using in the course of your day. Just look at your Roku, for example. If you go into their website or read their documentation, there's almost always a thing on the back that says, oh, here's the list of open source software we use, and here's how you get it, because more often than not, open source requires you to share out the code, and so they have to make that available. But as a streamer, right, I use OBS, which is open source. I use Mix It Up, which is open source as well. Not open development, but open source. Right? There's a lot of these different apps that we use that are open source. But what's important is not the fact that it's open source, it's the fact that everybody is burning out, right? And I'm right there with them, right? And I bet everyone out there is dealing with burnout or being tired or something, right? So that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today, was the fact that, dude, we're all tired, man. We're tired. What can we do about this? All right. Now, I'm a streamer, I'm a podcaster, right? All that stuff. That's all a side gig, right? I have a regular day job that I do. And after I do my 8 hours plus lunch, so it's like 9 hours and commute time, which admittedly in my case is fairly short, I come back and then I spend my evenings doing content creation, whether I'm streaming or planning for what I want to do for my streams or for this podcast and things like that. I'll often be producing videos, right? So there's a lot of scripting and recording and all of that stuff for the video, right? It's a lot, but we're all dealing with the problem that, hey, dude, we're freaking tired, okay? And the reality is, we need to rest. We need to rest on occasion because, hey, it's important for us, right? If you want to improve your physical, mental, or emotional well-being, you need to rest. And I don't mean sleep, though that's part of it, okay? But to actually slow down and not be busy, I guess, right? I've been working through a rewatch of the original Star Trek. And one of my favorite episodes, I believe it's in season 1, is an episode called Shore Leave. And it starts, the Enterprise has a survey team out on the planet because it's looking like it's just going to be a nice place for the crew to be able to beam down and enjoy some time outdoors. Okay. And then Dr. McCoy sees the White Rabbit bouncing through the forest, proclaim that he's late, and disappear through a hedge. And then the rabbit is followed shortly after by a little blonde girl in a blue dress, right? And things go on. It's a fun episode. I highly recommend it. But there's a conversation in that. Kirk is talking to Spock and says, oh, hey, which part of the crew will you be beaming down with for shore leave? And Spock's response is, on Vulcan, to rest means to rest, to cease using energy, right? But there's more to it than that, okay? Now, I am not going to claim to be a scientist, right? If you want to talk about the science of rest, there are a zillion and a half websites. Most of them are even true, okay, about how rest will help with recovery and immunity and all of this stuff, okay? And it does, right? Certainly, it's easy to see, hey, if I don't get enough sleep, I'm tired and I'm groggy, right? Because hey, that's just how sleep works. But yeah, if you're dealing with injury, right, being able to rest your injury helps it heal, right? And you know, it's easy to push an injured limb or something too hard and re-injure it, right? You see this all the time with sports, right? Somebody has a twisted ankle, they come back too soon, and they hurt it worse, and now they're out longer, right? You need to be able to rest, get off that foot, for example, and give yourself time to heal, right? If you're just going and going and going, it's easier to get sick, right? Because hey, your immune system needs a chance to sort of chill as well, right? And well, all of that happens sort of automatically. As you keep putting stress on your body, it's harder for it to keep up with that, right? And then, of course, I know from my own personal experience, and I'm sure it's the same for most people, is that, hey, when you're tired, it's hard to be productive. Sometimes it's just hard to want to get up off the couch or out of the chair and go do something, right? And there have certainly been times when I've gone to work, and it's like, okay, like just this week, I had to do maintenance at night, which is not uncommon. I work in IT, and if we do something that's going to break things, it's nice to do it when people aren't around as much, right? Okay. So I did. And oh yeah, Friday morning, I was like, it's harder for me to focus, and that's harder for me to be productive. Okay, that's just how it goes. But you also deal with problems like, hey, I can't think as clearly. Again, that's me 100%. When I'm tired, it's harder for me to keep thoughts going in a line, right? Right. I think I'm a little ADHD as it is, and it's easy for me to get scattered. But dude, I need to rest once in a while, right? And I know also when I'm tired, I get grumpy, right? A lot of people do. And if you like being grumpy, okay, I mean that's a thing, right? If you're Oscar the Grouch out there somewhere, right? But resting goes beyond sleep, okay? Now sleep is the most obvious one because most of us have to do that at least once a day, all right? Sleep is a good thing. But rest goes beyond sleep, okay? In that same episode, Shore Leave of Star Trek, what they find is that the planet they had landed on was an amusement park. It was a place where the creators of the planet could go to play. Because, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it goes something along the lines of, the more advanced the mind, the more important it is for the simplicity of play. Okay, and that's, I think, what they talk about when they use words like active rest and things like that, is the idea that I'm going to get away from the day job, right? And the day job, I mean, is not just work, right? Not just going to work and doing your thing there, but sometimes getting away from housework and all of the to-do list things, right? And just, I'm going to go for a walk, right? I'm going to go work out, and not necessarily in a, I have to work out because I need to get those gains, or, you know, in my case, I am a fat man and I need to try to not be, right? And working a little bit, but just, hey, I'm going to get out, I'm going to put on a podcast, and I'm just going to go for a walk, or go out hiking, or, you know, whatever it is you like to do to recreate, right? To, you know, go play tennis, or just go sit by the river and watch the water go by and count the cans as they float down the stream. Whatever, okay. But just being able to take a break from all of that, to switch gears and just be chill, right? And that is one of the reasons I like to stream. As much as there is some added stress of that goes along with that, it's a great break for me to be able to separate from all of the other stresses in my life, and I'm just going to focus on Minecraft and talking to the chat, and we're going to have some fun, right? And, you know, things like, hey, mental breaks, right? A lot of the same thing is like, hey, I just need to turn off for a little bit. And maybe just curl up with a book, right? I love to read. I don't do it nearly as much as I should. In fact, I'm very slowly, and probably too slowly, but very slowly working my way through a novel that my daughter has written, because I'm a beta tester for her, for one of her for a series of books that she's working on. Obviously, I need a mental break because I can't word today, which on a podcast is a problem, right? And then there's things like spiritual rest, okay? Now, this could mean different things to different people, okay? But very often, you just need a chance to recharge, okay? And this could come in a number of ways, right? Attending church, if you're of mind, is definitely one of those, right? Or reading scriptures or things like that. Those are definitely wins for me. Sometimes it's just a matter of, I'm just going to meditate, okay? And that's a huge one, right? I do that on occasion. I don't do it regularly, but man, if I'm having a day that is very stressful or emotionally draining or something, being able to just find a quiet spot, sit down for about 5 minutes or so, and just breathe. Just close out everything. You know, start thinking of all the mindfulness stuff, right? I like mindfulness and mindful meditation, okay? The idea is I'm just going to focus on breathing in and out, you know, right? Just breathe and let your, you know, close your eyes. Just, okay, I can feel, what am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling? If I'm feeling tense, can I let that tension go, right? Try to push away thoughts. Just, you know, right? Because, you know, I'm one of those, my mind is just active, right? It doesn't shut up. Despite the number of times I want it to, it doesn't shut up. Okay. And especially after a stressful day, and my mind is just replaying those, come on, this is how you things you could have done better or worse or whatever, and you're right. No, it's a chance to slow down, breathe. And when the thoughts just, nope, I'm not going to think about that now. Just quiet your mind and just focus on breathing. That is amazing for me. Okay. And it may work great for you too. I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know what works for you. Find what works for you, man. But it's fabulous as a way of just, let's just slow it down. And it's something, because I usually just go for like 5 minutes. It's something I can do at work, even if I need to. It's like, okay, things were killer. All right. I just got off that meeting and said, all right, let me take an emotional break, spiritual break, and let's get back to center. Okay. And that is as much a helpful rest as taking a vacation, getting a good night's sleep, right? That type of break is helpful. It's amazing, right? But why don't we? Why don't we do any of this stuff, right? Now, there is in some circles, there's a societal pressure of, I don't know, glorifying busyness or hustle. It's the idea that, hey, the more busy you are, the more important you are, and the better you are, because you're better and busy and doing all this stuff. And yeah, right. And some of that comes from, honestly, some of it comes from some of the social work social justice things. And I don't mean this in a pejorative way or a political way. And maybe I even used the wrong word, but the idea that if I'm not out volunteering at a homeless shelter or on a city council or on a school board or on any number of things, I'm obviously not doing enough to help my community, right? And so you get that feeling that you have to be in everything. Okay. And that comes up a lot sometimes with parents. It's like, okay, I've got to be on the school board. My kids have all of these activities. And oh, if my kids aren't in 5 different activities, right, they're not going to make it into college or something, right? And I understand those pressures. Now, we had to make a choice early because we had 5 kids, all right? And obviously, 5 kids are going to keep us busy. But because we had 5 kids, we knew that we had to limit somewhat what they did. And I mean that in the sense of how many different activities they were in, okay? So the kids each picked one. And it had to be something outside the house, but that's something they did. So most of my daughters all did dance, okay? My son, he also started in dance. He wanted to do tap, and he did that for a couple of years before he said, you know what, this isn't for me. And then he did Taekwondo until he graduated from high school. He got his black belt, and that was it. But they weren't in dance and 18 other activities, right? It was just, you've got the one, this is good, focus on that, but take time to be you. And part of that is why I think my oldest daughter is a writer, amongst other things, is because while she was a tremendous dancer, she also liked to write. And being able to have that quiet time to sit and write. And I said, she's hoping to have her first novel published this summer. And I'm reading the second book in the series as to give feedback on that, right? So this is important stuff to be able to just say, hey, this is for me. Now, the other part of it is, I certainly feel this sometimes, but do you ever feel or get the thought that, hey, if I'm not doing something productive, I'm a lazy slob and this is horrible, right? Just me, maybe? Okay. I can accept that. No, there is a societal pressure, I guess is the right word, about just not doing stuff, being unproductive is somehow bad, okay? Now, part of that comes from, I think, definitely an American historical push, right? But I don't know. I'm not entirely sure where it all comes from. And I think some of it may come from ourselves, right? Some of it may just come from the fact that, hey, we're watching TV and look at all these people doing things, and I'm sitting here watching TV, right? The other side of it is, these guys, right? These happy little phones that we all have. Do you just sit there and are inundated by the pings and the beeps and the doom scrolling? Right? You have to watch things all the freaking time, right? Sure. I mean, that definitely comes up. Right? Now, that was one of the best things I could have done. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but I turned off almost all of the notifications on my phone, right? Because I don't need to know. I don't need a ping every time I get an email, right? I don't need a ping anytime somebody posts on social media, okay? I've got a few things like my Discord. I get a ping when somebody posts in my Discord because that's a community I manage and it's important to me. I've got, notifications turned off for almost all of my other apps. I just don't need to care. And honestly, that is one of the first steps you can do to actually rest is, I'm not going to say turn off your phone, don't use it or something like that, because I do like to read. And I read a lot of books digitally on my phone from the library. Okay. Hey, the phones are amazing things. They're very useful. Cool. The modern cell phone, the fact that it's still called a phone perhaps is a misnomer in some ways. But that might be step one. Okay. But what other things can you do to make rest a priority in your life? Okay. And I don't mean, well, I will rest to the exclusion of everything else. That's going a little too far. Okay. But things like sleeping. Now, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Okay. This is the deep knowledge here. Okay. If you want to get 8 hours of sleep, you must go to bed at least 8 hours before you have to get up. Okay, preferably a little bit more. This is just how math works, right? But so many of us think, okay, I need 8 hours of sleep. I need to be up at 6. Midnight's fine. I can go to bed at midnight. That's not how it works, right? Now, I naturally tend to run on a 7.5-ish hour schedule. Now, according to my Fitbit, I don't sleep quite that much. I sleep like 6.5 hours because of up and down. Because you will wake up briefly while you're sleeping and then fall back to sleep. And you're up so briefly you don't even remember it. Okay. Or like in my case, I drink a lot of water and I often have to get up in the middle of the night to go visit the bathroom and then come back. Right. Okay. But I have my alarm set, so I can get up about 5:30. Well, that means I need to be going to bed 9:30, something like that, if I'm going to get enough sleep. Or at least so I have time to get enough sleep. So that's maybe step one is, yeah, if you have a time that you have to get up, I said, I'm an early bird. I like being up in the morning. 5:30 works great for me. But, whatever it is for you, count back those 8 hours. And I said, give yourself an extra half hour just for the time it takes to actually fall asleep. I tend to fall asleep fairly quickly. My wife takes longer, right? So, plan accordingly. Next, think about breaks, okay? Now, if you're fortunate enough to work at a job where you can kind of set your own break schedule a little bit, set a timer, right? As I was doing research on organization and time management and stuff, there was one philosophy, and I don't remember what it was called right now. If you know, drop it in the comments. But the recommendation was set a timer for 20 minutes, and you focus for 20 minutes, and at the end of that 20 minutes, you stop, and you take a couple of minutes, and just take a break. And then 20 minutes, and you're off, okay? And that's how you do your workday. And you're just head down, focus for 20 minutes. 20 minutes are done. Okay. Take a break. Take a couple of minutes. All right, let's do this again. Okay. And you go like that. Again, I drink a lot of water. So for me, while I'm at work, about every hour, I need to be in the bathroom. Okay. And now I drink a lot of water because if I don't stay hydrated, I get migraines. Okay. That's my trigger for migraines. And so I try to stay hydrated. Hydration is wonderful, but it does mean I have to be in the bathroom regularly. So I take that time. It's like, I know I have to get up anyway because I've really got to pee. So take that time and take a couple of extra minutes. Okay. Now, because of things going on at work, my office is currently in a library, which is interesting, right? Their renovations are supposed to be going on in our building where my office was, and they've moved us around campus, and so I'm currently working in a library. Well, the bathroom is on the opposite end of the library from where my office is, okay? Now, it's not that big a library, but it's kind of nice because, hey, I can go walk back, and it takes a couple of minutes, and it's a good chance to, one, get away from my desk and stretch my legs and do all of that stuff that, it turns out, just sitting down for hours at a time is not great for anybody, right? Or any body, perhaps, is the right way of putting it. Because you get circulation issues, and your body wants to kind of slow down the metabolism. You know, just lots of physical things. You can read about that yourself. But hey, this is an enforced, I'm going to go hit the bathroom and come back. And what's kind of nice is I work in a library. So taking an extra minute or two and just, I want to go down this row of books and just see what's here. And sometimes it's fiction, and it's, here's a couple of books of Star Wars, and here's whatever else happens to be here. Or down this aisle is, looks at Cicero, right? Or here's the history of Marxism, or World War II, or Renaissance art, right? It doesn't make, right? It's a library. There's books and everything. So just being able to take, I'll walk down this row today, right? Because the bathroom is in a corner. So I pretty much can take any, the bathroom's in a corner. My office is not quite the opposite corner, but roughly speaking it is. So it's fairly easy to say, I'm going to walk back and I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to look at these books. And it's a nice, and it's not much more than, I'm looking at the titles and seeing what's there. It's not like I'm stopping to pull a book off the shelf or something like that. But it's a mental break. It's a physical break because I'm up and walking. And for those of you who believe that, hey, I need to get like 250 steps every hour, turns out that's about how many steps it is for me to go from my office to the bathroom and back. Okay? Awesome. So, okay, this is cool. But beyond that, we need to be able to set boundaries. We need to be able to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Now, there are some things you can't say no to, okay? While you're at work, your time is kind of theirs, right? Assuming you're not the boss, which most of us are not, there's only so much you can do. You can, potentially, right? It depends, but you can, hey, I'm going to say no to working outside of my work hours. It's like, no, I've got my 8. I'll do my 8. I will give you my best during those 8 hours. But after that, I'm home, and I am not working. Okay, and that's one of the problems you get if you have a job where you're working from home. And I remember during COVID, when so many people were working from home, including me, where it's really easy. It's like, hey, I'm living where I work, and it's really easy to, okay, I finished my work shift. I'm going to go have dinner, watch TV, whatever. Well, maybe I'll go answer a couple of emails before bed. And the next thing you know, you're working an extra couple of hours, right? That's not healthy, right? And, sometimes you need to unplug, right? Like, whether it's unplugging from tech, which said more often than not, how do you see yourself just scrolling? Okay. Because I'll tell you, the number of times I'll sit here and it's like, all right, I do follow a few people on Instagram, right? Mostly webcomics, things like that. So it's, all right, you start, all right, I'm going to scroll. And it can suck your life away, right? And then especially if you're on some form of creator media and where there's a lot of political angst, okay? Because at least American politics, and I don't think it's that different from much of the rest of the world, but American politics is very much the other side is evil incarnate. And it doesn't matter who the other side is, okay? Right? It doesn't matter. Because that's the nature of American politics right now. And believe me, that sucks. Okay. But we just, it's easy to get sucked into that and just kill us, right? So yeah, sometimes we just need to put the phone down, grab a book, go for a walk, something, okay? And give your mind and your spirit and everything a chance to just put that away, okay? And it's not a threat to say it'll be there when you get back, okay? Just, you can take a break for a little bit. Now, sometimes it's hard, right? If you're a parent, stay-at-home parent of young children, it's very hard to find that time to rest. Because it turns out toddlers don't care. They have zero care about whether or not you are tired. They still want to eat. They still want to play and to be with you and need diaper changes potentially or any of these other things, okay? They don't care about that. So how do you find time to rest? And sometimes you don't, okay? There may be days where the kids finally got to bed. If I don't go to sleep now, I'm not going to get any rest before they wake up again. Or, right, any number of things, right? Sometimes you're working a job that really does make that hard, okay? And I give actors a lot of crap. They do have a tough job sometimes. You look at some of these sets where they're pushing 12 and 16-hour days. Now, eventually they get to stop, but that's hard. You got to talk about lots of night shoots, things like that. You've got emergency personnel, right? EMTs, doctors, nurses, cops, firefighters, right? Sometimes you just don't get that chance. And I certainly know the number of times my dad, who was a cop for 31 years, where he'd go to work and he'd be, whatever else happened during the day, he was doing it. And then sure enough, an hour or two before quitting time, he'd get a call and he can't just say, okay, I'm taking these reports, I'm investigating this break-in, whatever. Oh, quitting time, I'm out of here. It doesn't work that way. A firefighter who shows up and they're fighting a fire, it's like, well, it's quitting time. You get to burn. I'm going to go watch TV. It doesn't work that way, And then, of course, you have people who are running their own businesses or, CEOs and things who are working long hours to keep things running. Okay. So finding that time to rest is harder. Okay. If you're just like me doing an 8 to 5, it's not quite as bad to say, all right, I'm going to take these days, right? And this is one of those times where, my church's admonition to keep the Sabbath day holy. Like, yeah, let's try to keep Sunday from getting overwhelmed by stuff. When I was writing my book, that was one of the rules I had for myself. So I was working my day job. I had set aside, of course, my stream days, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, and I would stream. And that's about all the time I had to play. And then the rest of the time, I was working on my book until bed. And it worked. I was busy. I was tired. But Sunday, all of that went away. Sunday, I went to church, and that was it. And I needed it, and it was great. Okay. Plan some of those things, right? Say, no, this is my day. I'm not doing any extras, right? I'll cook, I'll take care of the kids, whatever, that type of thing. But I'm not working. I am done. If you could do that, awesome, right? But find something that works for you. And that's the thing. Rest is so important. Find what works for you. And this is the reason it's on my mind is, hey, I just started my first day of vacation. Friday, It's my last day at work for a week, right? I go back a week from Monday, and I need it. I'll tell you, because I deal with that burnout that I was talking about at the beginning. We're seeing with these open source developers, right? But find that time, because it's important to rest. If you're going, just constantly going and going and going, you burn yourself out. You fall apart. And you are not the most effective and important and best you that you can be if you don't take that time to rest, right? So find stuff that works for you, right? And this is the challenge. I'll put it out there. Find a new habit, okay? Whether it's taking finding times during your day when you can just take a break and either take a short walk or meditate or whatever. Just, can you do that? Or find a time to schedule a walk, or it's like, nope, this time is set apart. I'm just going to read for half an hour or whatever. Okay. Find something. Okay. Find something that gives you a chance to take that breath and let the stresses of the day just go away for a little bit. And if you have ideas, what works for you, let me know. Because if we can all help each other, that's fabulous. So post in the comments, YouTube or on Spotify. Join my Discord. I'm happy to talk about it there too. Any of those things, find something that works, because there's only so far we could drive ourselves before we fall off that cliff. Let's together find that time to build rest, healthy, healing rest into our days. And until next time, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.